Yeah, if he'll come over to the witness stand.
Come this way, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell me the truth, whole truth, and the true self you got?
Yes, sir.
All right, have a seat in the chair. All right, the defense wanted to inquire of this witness about something that occurred in the hallway. Is that correct?
Randy Etheridge, Your Honor, I'm here on behalf of Bree Kuhn. Has he been sworn in, Your Honor?
Yes, I swore him in.
Would you state your full name for the record, please, sir?
Eric Jerome Kuhn.
And Mr. Kuhn, were you called here today to testify via trial subpoena that was issued by our offices?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where were you at earlier today before you were called in to testify?
I've been right outside on the chair, sir.
Okay. You were aware of the rule of sequestration that you're not to speak to anybody else about your proposed testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell the court what you saw, what you observed while you were out there waiting for your turn to testify.
Two of the detectives that I had met previously were out there just talking, and then another police officer in a full uniform came out and he started talking about the trial and that the defense was nonsense and that he had been a soldier and PTSD is serving overseas, not here, and things like that.
Were you in earshot? Could you hear and understand most or any of what they were saying?
He was right next to me.
Okay. Were they talking directly about their testimony or the testimony that was to be presented here in court today?
I would presume so. I didn't hear their testimony, but he came out and was discussing being in here and that the defense was nonsense.
Okay. Was one of the persons that you heard talking, was that Detective Roll, the fellow that came up to Pennsylvania to speak to you?
He was being talked to by the officer in uniform, yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Alderman?
So, Mr. Kuhn, this uniformed officer, was he discussing things that had happened inside the courtroom?
Yes, he said that, I guess things he heard, he said they were nonsense.
Okay, you just heard him say they were nonsense? The defense is nonsense?
Yes.
Is that it?
He was discussing time served in the military that he had, I believed, and he said something about seeing a skull cracked open from enemy fire is PTSD, that what the plaintiff suffered wasn't.
Okay, so this uniformed officer was giving his opinion about the case. Is that correct? In terms of,
Yes.
and he thought the defense was nonsense.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one follow-up. Just to make the record clear, Mr. Kuhn, uniform officer, the other detectives, were they talking about things that they were going to testify to about today?
The uniform officer discussed what he was in here testifying to, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, wait. That's not what you said initially.
Okay, make
So
sure
what
we're
you said-
clear for the court.
That's
Okay,
not what my understanding was. This uniformed officer went to Detective Rowell, who was not uniformed. He's in a suit, and it was this uniformed officer that was talking to him, correct?
He was talking to two of the detectives, and it seemed, I believe, the young lady was a medical examiner. They were all out there. She had a black purse, gray pearls.
Okay. Oh,
I was sitting right out there.
The most important question, Mr. Kuhn, is whether they were talking about what they were going to testify about today.
My understanding from their conversation was he had already testified, and then he came out speaking.
So there was nothing said about proposed testimony. They're talking about this. The defense attorneys are going to ask this, or you need to watch out for this. Anything like that at all?
No, sir.
Okay. And they didn't discuss, well, you need to say this, you need to say that. Was there
No, sir.
anything like that? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kuhn.
Yes, sir.
all right. Mr. Alderman, any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, sir, you may step down and go back outside, and when it's your turn to testify in the front of the jury, we will come and get you, okay?
Yes, sir.
He will be next, Judge.
Okay.
I know you like him to come in. That's
Okay. Well, at this time, I don't believe the rule of sequestration has been violated. First, I don't know who this uniformed officer is. And it's evident he was talking, he said the detectives, both, I know Detective Rowell was in plain clothes. I believe Detective Kelly was too.
Yes, sir. I believe I saw him out there this morning. He was in plain
He was in plain clothes. This witness did not describe anything that the investigator said. There was no comments about what they said. They didn't say anything. His testimony was that this other uniformed person talked to them about the defense being nonsense and then about military service. So this witness's testimony does not indicate that the detectives were talking about what happened in the courtroom. We're not sharing what they had testified to. And I guess, Mr. Alderman, was there any uniformed officers that you had here today?
No, I was going to be one of the record to reflect, Judge, that he seemed a little unclear, or maybe I was unclear, but no uniformed officers testified today. I mean, there may be uniformed officers out there, obviously the president here at the courthouse, but there was no witness in uniform that left the courtroom and would have discussed their testimony. Obviously, the only witnesses were Detective Rowell and the medical examiner.
May I inquire now whether Jameson Lynn or Stephen Quick, who are scheduled as potential rebuttal witnesses, were here today?
I have not seen them, and I told them to be on standby for tomorrow.
Very good.
So.
Okay. So all the uniformed officers that we've heard from would not have been here today, but were on standby for tomorrow. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I don't know who this uniformed officer is. I don't even know if they were even a witness in the case.
My take from what he was saying was that it sounded like a deputy not involved in the case was giving his opinion as to the validity of the defense.
Okay.
Now I'm happy to remind the witnesses of the rule of sequestration, an abundance of caution. I'm happy to do that.
Sure. But let me just say for the record, there's no evidence that Detective Rowell or Detective Kelly violated that rule.
No, sir. I'll just tell them, that sometimes people mishear things or hear what they want to hear. So I'll
Okay.
have a word with them.
If you'll step out and maybe, I don't know, Mr. Barnes, if you want to step out and remind your witnesses as well, just to make doubly sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give you my back while you were talking.
No, I understand, Mr. Barnes.
I don't have any witnesses or either past or future witnesses here in the courthouse. Judge.
Okay.
They've all left.
I'm going to step off the bench just for about 3 minutes and then wait for Mr. Barnes to come in. So I'll be back in just about 3 minutes. We'll wait for Mr. Barnes to
Yes,
return.
sir.
Thank you for rising to the judge.
Now we've, and everybody be seated.
Judge, Dr. McDonald just arrived, and I was discussing her sort of scheduling that I don't know if we'll get to her this afternoon or if it will be in the morning. But I did mention to her about the conversation we had about the defendant testifying and experts remaining in the courtroom. So if that takes place, then I will probably have Dr. McDonald sit in the courtroom so she can listen to.
Okay. Any objection to that, Mr. Ehlers?
No, Your Honor.
And just to make sure, Mr. Barnes,
Sorry.
Dr. McDonald is here. State's requesting that she sit in as your expert witness is for your client's testimony if she chooses to testify. Any objection to that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I just have a quick word with counsel. Defense calls Eric.
Okay. Well, we're going to wait till the jury comes in first.
I was just warming up.
All right. Let's just bring the jury in.
I feel like we're missing something.
I had a trial with Judge Nobles. And we did.
God, I need you to re-swear him in.
All rise for the jury, please.
Okay, everybody can be seated. All right, members of the jury, the state's rested its case. I'll turn it over to the defense. Mr. Barnes, if you'll call your first witness.
Eric Kuhn, Your Honor.
All right, sir, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, sir, have a seat in the chair. Pull the chair as close to the microphone as you can. Speak loud enough into the microphone so that everybody can hear you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Barnes, you may proceed.
Thank you. Would you state your name?
Eric Jerome Joshua Kuhn.
And thanks for being here. We've asked you to come to this trial, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you flew down, I think, last night.
Yes, sir.
You live in,
Pennsylvania.
there you go. And how do you know Bree?
She's my younger sister.
And how old are you?
I'm 38.
Just briefly, did you guys like grow up together or separate, or talk about that dynamic a little bit?
We grew up together until I was in 9th grade, and then my sister moved to live with my dad.
Okay. Was there ever a time that you two became reunited in terms of living in the same place after that?
No.
Was there a point in time you moved to Texas with your sister?
We moved to Texas. She moved from Texas to New York with my dad. We lived in Pennsylvania together.
Yes, sir.
Moved to Texas together with our mom, and then she went from Texas to New York with my dad.
Was there any, and again briefly, was there any physical abuse at all in the family?
Yes, our mom was very abusive our entire childhood, even into adulthood.
Was she ever physically abusive to Bree?
Yes.
Okay.
Terribly.
And to yourself?
Oh, yes.
What role, if any, did Bree play in being the big sister? With regard to your...
Well,
you-
she was the little sister, but
Right.
I would always go along to get along.
Right.
I figured if I kept my mouth shut, it wouldn't last nearly as long. My sister would even try to defend me and yell at my mom saying, "Why are you hitting him?" And then she would get hit very bad as well for trying to protect me.
Was Bree a protector of yours, for lack of a better word, in that dynamic?
Yes, she's a little sister only by age.
Yes, sir. Now, obviously, you guys grow up and people live in different places and so forth. Did you stay in touch?
Yes.
Phone calls?
Phone calls, text messages, social media, but we would even visit. Sometimes I was at her graduation from boot camp in Chicago. I went and visited her while she was in advanced individual training in San Antonio. She's lived several places with the Navy. I have visited a couple of them to see her.
When is the last time that you saw Bree, other than right now, obviously?
We had gone on a trip to the bungalows in Key Largo in Florida about 1 to 2 years before this incident occurred.
And who was on that trip?
It was me, Bree, and Colin.
Is there any reason you were... Well, did they invite you?
Yes, I was given a couple of reasons. One is Colin was in school, so he was studying quite a bit. So they thought that if he was studying, I could hang out with my sister so she wasn't alone. If she wanted to rest or recoup, I could hang out with him if he wasn't studying. And then they also, both of them at separate times and together, told me that they were having marital issues and they thought a third person might help what they were working on together.
Yes, sir. Did you notice any physical abuse on that trip? At least, obviously, in front of you.
No, not that I saw, sir.
Okay. Did you learn anything about Colin that you didn't know on that trip?
Yes, sir.
What did you learn?
It was in my deposition, but I know he told me that the reason him and Bree got along very well is that they were both psychopaths and narcissists. He seemed to think that was entertaining, I believe. I know we would talk about, I would go to the gym at that place, and he would talk to me about like steroids and supplements and things like that, which I didn't.
Your Honor, I'm object for relevance.
Sustained.
Fair enough. We can move along. So you go back to, at that time, still in Pennsylvania, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Bree goes back wherever she is, and you guys continue to have conversations?
Here and there, yes, sir.
Okay. Did Bree ever tell you anything about her marriage or about Colin that would be noteworthy? How they were getting along, any problems, anything like that?
Yes, sir. It seemed like that trip didn't help much. They were still having really bad issues, and I came to learn how far they went later on as well.
And did your sister, if you could tell, was she depressed about that, upset about that? I mean, I'm sure she wasn't happy about it.
No, she was highly depressed, sir. In fact, I do know she tried to kill herself. I was with her on the phone, and I had even called Colin to tell him this is what she's doing. She's in the house, and he couldn't care less. I actually had to call the medics to tell them to go to the house for her, pump her stomach.
Let me back you up a bit, but then we can talk about that a little bit more. Now, I guess as the big brother, even though she's the de facto or de jure big sister, if you will, did you ever give her any advice in terms of what she should do when she's telling you this stuff about the marriage and she's depressed? And did you ever tell her, like, just leave?
Yes.
And did she?
She was quite scared, not for herself, but for her kids.
Is that what she reported to you, or you just assumed that?
No, she told me that.
Okay. Now, again, we're not going to spend a bunch of time on it because you just talked about it. But you were on the phone with your sister when she was about to commit suicide or trying to commit suicide?
Yes, sir.
What did you learn on the phone about that in terms of how she was trying to do it, or why, or anything else about it?
There were multiple reasons as to the why. The how was she told me she had taken all of her prescription medications and a lot of alcohol together and then went into a closet. And the why was She was unhappy in the marriage. She wanted to leave, but she was petrified that she wouldn't be able to get custody of the kids. My understanding from my conversations with her was Colin had a family with access to wealth, that he could have hired lawyers and things like that, where she didn't have the same access, so she didn't know what her odds were of getting the children.
And when this, is happening, and you're on the phone with her, she's telling you she just did this. What did you do in response to any emergent reaction?
I called Colin. He was in the home with her.
And did he know what was going on
Yes.
in terms of the Bree's suicidal attempt in real time?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. And what did he say about it? What was he doing about it?
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, did you say, dude, you got to call EMS? I mean, my sister's, did you react that way? Or?
I didn't say my sister. I said your wife. I thought reminding him might help.
And did you disengage the phone call, and it was your opinion that he wasn't going to do anything?
It was my opinion he was going to let her die.
Okay. Did he flat out say, no, I'm not calling EMS?
Yes.
And you get off the phone with him, who calls EMS? If you
Me.
Okay. Now, the day of the shooting, did Bree call you that day?
Multiple times, sir.
And what was the general nature of those calls, if you can tell us?
I would say anxiety and fear. She had had a surgery scheduled for many months, and I guess they were having she told me they were having a dispute that day, that if she went to have the surgery, he was going to kidnap the children and she would never see them again. So she was asking me if I could come down, not to be with her, but to be with the kids while she had the surgery so that he couldn't take them away from her. Then she would call again and say that they were discussing it and he would watch them and wouldn't take them. And then it seemed like they'd been having an argument all day about this, and he was going back and forth on what would happen.
Were the calls mixed in with, hey, how's the weather? I saw a good movie last night, or were they all in relation to what was going on between them? And
No, this was a very important issue. There was no, common conversation in between. It was her medical well-being. The surgery wasn't for appearance or anything. It was for her health and then the well-being of her children.
And at any point that day, did you intentionally talk to Colin?
No, sir.
Did your sister tell you he's not going to take? Did you find out he was going to take care of her at all when she has the surgery and her recovery? Or in other words, did he care about that at all? Did you know anything about that?
No. The end result prior to the shooting was, if she had the surgery for her health, he was going to take the kids, go to his parents' house, and she would never see them again.
Yes, sir. Now, the final call, you actually, and we're going to work up towards it, but the call, you actually heard the shots, correct?
Yes, sir.
And tell the jury, what was the length of that call?
It was several minutes, sir. It was quite some time we were on the phone.
Was it like 45 minutes?
I would say so, sir.
And what are you hearing during that time?
In my sister's voice, utter fear. And then I heard a lot of discourse, Colin screaming, things being hit. At one point, he was on the phone with the police, I believe, trying to tell them that my sister was doing something, and she was on the phone with me.
Did you ever hear Colin make any threats or raise his voice or anything of that nature?
I did hear his voice raised a few times, yes, and I did hear at some point children crying.
And there was were you aware of a point in time when Bree got a gun? Were you aware of that?
I don't believe that. Yeah, I believe she grabbed the gun, and I said, just get out of the house, and she said they kill the kid. She couldn't.
And was there a point in time where you heard, like, did she say, he's hurting me, or he kicked me, or?
Oh, yes, I heard slamming. She did say that. She was even telling him, why are you doing this? And then she screamed that out, and at another point, the phone fell to the ground, and I heard a scuffle.
Did you hear your sister say, "You're not taking the fucking kids"?
She said, "You're not taking them," and she said, "You're not killing them."
Okay. And then she gets the gun, correct?
I would believe so, yes, sir.
I'm going to object for speculation.
Restate your question.
Are you aware, like what you heard earlier, you said that you knew she went and got a gun, right? And then I brought you to the kicking and the struggles and so forth in the aisle and hitting the floor and all that. Was that before or after you realized she got a gun?
Before.
I need to do a better job of like a timeline a little bit here.
Yes, sir.
First, how were you aware that your sister got a gun? Did she tell you?
I believe she did. I believe she said that's how she was going to protect the kids.
And
And at that point, I was begging her to just get out of the house, but she kept saying, "The kids, the kids, the kids."
now again, this is a 45-minute call. We get to a point where you hear indicators of a struggle in the aisle and the throwing around and so forth. How long after that do you believe your sister got the gun? If you know.
Immediately. She was thrown to the ground, and he was grabbing the kids because I heard the kids yelling.
I'm going to object to speculation.
Sustain the objection.
And then we end up, what happens next? What do you hear next?
The shots.
Prior to the shots going off, did you hear your sister say anything?
She kept saying that he was not going to kill the kids. And the kids were crying.
And obviously you're not there. You hear the shots. Did you say anything after that?
I was crying and yelling, "Oh my God." And she told me, I killed him, I have to call the cops," and hung up. I tried calling her back, there was no answer. Then I called my father.
One second here. That'd have been fun. No further questions.
Trying to grade school to help you there.
Mr. Alderman, cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In this, you do have cross-examination?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Kuhn.
Good afternoon, sir.
So I want to touch on this trip that you and your sister took to Key Largo, was it?
With Colin.
Yes. And you're there for approximately a week, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you never, as you said, you never saw any physical abuse during that time, did you?
No, sir.
Did you suspect any physical abuse?
No, sir.
You never suspected anything other than the marital issues? You never suspected any kind of physical abuse, domestic abuse, rape, anything, did you?
No, sir.
And you thought Colin was a nice guy, didn't you?
I had some qualms after he told me that he believed himself to be a psychopath, but that was it. I thought it made...
Do you remember previously? Well, let's talk about that, the psychopath. He makes a comment, "We're both psychopaths," and then he and Bree both laugh, don't they?
At the time they were together, he made it other times as well, alone.
Okay, and they both laughed when he said it when they were together?
Oh, when they were together, yes.
So they both laughed and agreed they're both psychopaths? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that comment, that's the worst thing you saw and heard during that time together? I mean, is
Worse?
that
No, my sister confided in me about what the issues were at home, but none of them involved the other things you mentioned.
right, they were marital issues, right? It comes to chores.
Yes, sir.
And she had told you she was stressed about that she was working and was financially responsible, correct?
Yes, sir.
Those kind of marital issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And up until the day Colin was murdered, you never had any reason to suspect anything untoward in terms of a physical nature, did you?
No, sir.
Now, you mentioned about talking to your sister several times that day, correct? And that there was issues about the surgery, and I believe you said that Colin had made a comment about kidnapping the kids.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was he going to kidnap the kids, or was he refusing to watch the kids, according to Bree?
I don't know that the phrase kidnap was used. It was that he was going to take the kids to his parents if she had the surgery.
Okay. So he wasn't refusing to watch them.
He was saying he would take them and she would never see them again.
Okay. Do you remember being interviewed by the police?
Excuse me?
Do you remember being interviewed by the police?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on September 24th?
I wouldn't know the dates, sir, but I remember they flew up to Pennsylvania.
And was that a close in time to the time of the murder?
I want to say it was within a week, sir.
Okay. And you they interviewed you about what had happened, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to approach the witness?
You may.
Yeah, objections, improper repeating, he ain't asking the question yet, can't approach the asking the question. It's improper.
That's got to be Mr. Barnes.
I whispered it.
All right. Mr. Alderman?
The question was about whether Colin was watching the kids, or kidnapping the kids, or refusing to watch the kids, was the question.
Okay. You may continue.
Mr. Kuhn, and I'm on page 5. I want you to read this to yourself, lines 15 through 21.
I'm sorry, Mark, is that the interview or the depo?
Page 5. And just look up for me when you're done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that help refresh your memory as to what Bree was telling you about the kids?
What I said was accurate. She said he was going to take them.
Judge, I am going to object. Refreshing memory is one thing. The way you do that is to say, well, A, the witness has to say, I don't remember. B, you say, if I showed you something, would you remember? Or would it aid you to remember? Witness has to say yes. I mean, so, yes, objection.
All right. Overruled. You may continue, Mr. Alderman.
So, Mr. Kuhn, you previously said that he was refusing to take the kids, or to watch the kids, correct?
In here? Yes.
Yes, sir. That's what you told the police, correct?
Yes.
That he was refusing to watch the kids.
He was also threatening to take them.
He was doing both?
All I knew is he was threatening to take them.
Okay, and refusing to watch them.
Refusing. He was. I don't understand if he takes them. How's he not? I mean, maybe his parents will
I don't
watch them.
understand either. That's why I'm asking.
This interview was highly inappropriate to my belief because I was not told about it. I was in the gym at 6 a.m. and a police officer told me, I'm here waiting to meet you. I was never given any call, confirmation, anything. I had no idea what was going on. He just called me and told me he landed in Avoca from Florida with no knowledge or anything. I couldn't even get in touch with my sister's attorneys. I don't know if she had attorneys at that time. I had no idea what was going on other than 2 police officers with no phone calls told me they were in my city and had to meet me, and I didn't even know if that was appropriate or what was going on. I was at a complete loss.
Okay, so you think you should get advance notice before being interviewed about a murder case?
I don't.
Overruled.
I'm a professional with a small business. My time belongs to my clients and my family. I would like to know. I guess I'd book appointments.
Okay. Now let's get back on track. The detectives show up, and according to your statement there, you tell them he's refusing to watch the kids, correct? That's what you told the detectives.
Yes.
Now you're also saying he wanted to kidnap the kids.
My testimony is that he was kidnapping the kids. Like I said, I was not in a good state of mind when those detectives showed up. I was everywhere and nowhere. Unprofessionalism was quite shocking to me.
Okay, so is there a reason you told them that Bree was telling you he's refusing to watch the children?
I have no idea because on the phone call she said that he was kidnapping them, very specifically.
Okay, so why did you tell the detectives that he was refusing to watch them?
I just said a few times I was completely shell-shocked. I don't know if you've ever been bombarded with surprise, but I don't know where my head was at when these detectives came.
Okay, and the issue was about you coming down to watch the kids, is that right?
She wanted me to watch the kids, be there when she had the surgery so that he could not take them.
Okay. And did she use the word kidnap, or is that your word?
When I gave my deposition, I said
I'm not
kidnap.
asking about the deposition. I'm asking kidnap.
I
Is that
know,
you?
I'm trying to give you
Please finish
context. I don't know, at that time I said kidnap, but I don't believe a parent can technically kidnap their own kids.
That
At
wasn't my
that point, when
question,
I was
sir.
interviewed, I said the wrong word, I believe.
If you listen to my question, the question was kidnap her word or your word?
Mine, she said take.
She said take. Okay, you saying kidnap. Okay. You understand a parent can't kidnap their own children, correct?
I just said that, yes.
So why did you use the word kidnap before?
I don't know, I just said that. After reflection, I think that was the wrong word.
Okay. Now, you think this call is about 45 minutes long, is that right?
The final call, sir?
Sir. Okay. And you told Mr. Barnes that, I don't want to clarify, did you hear Colin on the phone with the police?
In the background, I heard him speaking, and Bree said he's on the phone with the cops.
Okay, and when was that during this 45-minute phone call?
Maybe 30, 35 minutes into it?
Okay. And can you hear anything Colin is saying?
No, sir.
Okay. You just hear what Bree's telling you?
I heard his voice, but like on a speakerphone, you can hear a voice without it being clear what the words are. So I heard his voice, but I did not hear what he was saying.
Okay. Now, I believe you used several words, scuffle, altercation, ruckus. What exactly did you hear in terms of a physical altercation? Can you describe it?
I can do my best. I mean, I heard things banging. I heard my nieces and nephews crying and yelling. I heard my sister saying she was being hit. I heard Colin yelling, and I heard, like, I wouldn't know how to describe it. Things hitting the ground or things being hit, like bumped or something, like slams.
So things are being hit, and she's telling you Colin is hitting her. Is that correct?
At one point, yes, sir.
Okay. You don't know what's going on. Obviously, you can't see what's going on, can you?
No, sir. I was on speakerphone.
Okay. And this, did Bree ever mention a gun to you?
I believe right at the end she said she was getting a gun to protect the kids, and I said, just leave. And I said he wouldn't hurt them. She said he would kill them, and that is when the call ended, when she shot him.
Now, during that interview with the police, did you ever tell the police that you knew about Bree getting a gun?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, I saw this before, and this isn't my whole interview. The police were there far longer than they record it.
Okay. So are you saying the police interviewed you before they started recording you?
They were having a conversation with me. I don't know if you would consider it an interview, but yes.
And asking you questions about what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then they turned the camera on and did a recorded interview, correct?
Yes, they were at my shop, I would say at least half an hour before they started recording.
Okay. And after they started recording, they told you, tell us about all the phone calls, didn't they?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. And you had Mr. Barnes on the phone as well, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And he told you to tell them everything that occurred.
Yes.
Okay. And after that, did you tell the police about Bree getting a gun?
I couldn't tell you, sir. I mean, like I said, since I'd already talked to them, I didn't know what. I told them once. I don't know if I told them a second time, but they did know.
You're claiming they knew that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. And they're telling you, tell us everything, and Mr. Barnes is telling you, walk us through the whole thing. That would be one of the things you would want to mention, right, about your sister getting a gun?
I guess, I mean, it was all redundant, but I guess I would believe so, yes.
Now, you remember giving a deposition back on June 17th, don't you?
Yes, sir.
This year?
Yes, sir.
You appeared via Zoom.
That's what this is, I believe. Yes. Oh.
During that deposition,
Objection, improper.
during the deposition you gave on June 17th, did you state at that time that you knew Bree had a gun?
I don't remember, sir. That was 3 years ago.
The deposition I'm speaking about on June 17th of this year.
Oh, of this year. I'm not sure because I know I said it, but I also know that it was done via Zoom and it kept being broken up.
Okay, so you think you said it during one of the glitches?
Yes. I said it. I don't know whether or not it's in here.
Okay, so if you said it, it's on one of the glitches that wasn't recorded. Is that what
If
you're
it
saying?
wasn't recorded, I can't help that, but I did say it.
Okay.
And I would have come down. I don't know why it had to be done Zoom, but
Okay, so if you just answer my questions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, this physical altercation that you hear, how long is that before the gunshots?
the physical part, I mean, the altercation was an argument that turned physical, and I would say it was physical for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe.
They were having a physical fight for 5 or 6 minutes?
Maybe. That's, like I said, there was yelling, kids screaming. I heard this hit. I heard yelling, then a slam. I wasn't there. This is just what I heard.
Okay. And so all this, for 5 minutes, you were hearing hitting. Is that what you're describing?
I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing kids screaming. I'm hearing things being hit. I don't know if, phone hit a wall, a vase. I have no clue what it was. Yelling, kids yelling, Colin yelling, Bree crying and yelling. And I don't know how to describe sounds, sir, but something of disarray was happening in there.
What did Bree tell you he was doing during this time? She's giving you commentary on what Colin's doing. Is that right?
At different points, she told me that he was hitting her, then she was yelling at him, telling him that he was hurting the kids. She told me he was trying to load them in the car, but he said he was hurting her. I believe he had my niece's arm. She said that he was trying to drag her, and she was telling him to leave her alone.
Okay. Now, when you were interviewed by the police, did you tell them any of this?
Yes.
You did? Okay. You want to approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Kuhn, do you remember at what point you told the police that Colin was dragging his daughter?
Dragging, no. She said that he had her by the arm and said to let her go.
Okay, so when did you tell the police that during your interview with them? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you. Like I said, this isn't the whole conversation I had with them. They were there much longer than this. I couldn't tell you what time it was.
Okay. So after they ask you to tell them everything that happened, and Mr. Barnes tells you to walk through the whole thing, did you describe to the police what you're now describing to this jury?
I guess it's a shame I'm not one for redundancy. I know they knew it because I did tell them whether or not it was when they filmed or not. If it's not in here, it wasn't when I was filmed.
Okay. Well, when Mr. Barnes tells you walk them through the entire thing, what do you think that means?
I think it was 3 days after the worst episode I've ever had in my entire life, and I still don't know how it has affected me.
Okay. Well, that wasn't my question. My question was, what do you think that means when somebody tells you, walk us through the entire thing? What does that mean to you?
It says, tell them everything I remember at that given point in the state of mind that I'm in.
Okay. And you didn't make any mention about Bree telling you about him having the child by the arm, did you?
Apparently not while I was being filmed, but I do know I said it.
Okay. So you said everything before they were filming?
Not everything. I'm telling you, I had a long conversation with them. They walked through my building. They looked at my store. They were asking me about brands I sold. None of that's in here either.
Now, I think you previously said that Colin had made some statement about killing the kids. Is that right? Did you hear him make some kind of statement like that?
Colin saying he would? No.
There was something about killing kids. What did you hear? Tell us what you heard.
She thought he would kill the kid. She was afraid of that. Bree.
And did she tell you that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you again. Did you ever tell the police that when you were interviewed? That Bree was telling you that Colin was going to kill her children. Did you tell the police that?
I said that I know she was in fear for her kid's life, yes.
So do you want to, do you remember what point you said that?
No, sir. This was 3 years ago. It was quite some time, and like I said, they were there for...
Let me ask you, is it difficult to remember the interview you gave 3 years ago?
Not the interview, the specifics of questions asked and answered on and off camera.
Okay. The specifics can be difficult 3 years later, can't they?
I just don't know when they turned the camera on.
Okay, so you think you may have told that them before about telling the
We had a
gonna
long
kill the kids?
conversation. I'm not sure the exact time, sir.
Okay. But again, you didn't say it after Mr. Barnes told you walk us through the whole thing. You didn't tell them that, did you?
If it's not in here, no, sir.
Did you hear any specific words at any point from Colin during this phone call?
No.
But Bree's telling you things that he's doing and saying. Is that right?
Yes, she's telling me I'm on speakerphone. I can hear his voice at different parts, but it's not clear. I can't hear anything he's saying.
Okay. What about around the time of the gunshots? Did you ever hear him say anything?
No, I don't believe so, sir.
How many gunshots did you hear?
I heard 3, sir.
And you didn't hear Colin say anything around that time, did you? Around the time of the gunshots?
No, sir.
You didn't hear his voice around the time of the gunshots?
No, sir.
So it sounds like you hear a physical altercation, and she's telling you that Colin's hitting her, right? And kicking her. And then a short time later, then you hear gunshots, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's immediately after the physical altercation, is that right?
What's the need? I mean, it was within, I would say, 1 to 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
Now, you remember giving a deposition on the June 17th? No, that's not what you're looking at, sir.
Oh, okay.
I'm asking you the deposition you gave on June 17th. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm on page 23. Approach the witness.
You may.
Sir, why don't you read this to yourself, lines 13 through 17.
Yes, sir.
Just read them to yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that help refresh your memory about how soon after the physical altercation you heard the gunshots?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said it was right after the gunshots, right?
Right after. Yes, not immediately.
Okay. What do you define as right after?
Well, you said immediately. I think immediately is within seconds. Right after could be within a couple of minutes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm an English major, right? It's just specifics. I'm sorry.
So your definition of right after is a couple of minutes?
1 to 2.
Okay. But that's not what you described previously, correct? It's physical altercation, gunshots.
Well, and he's not taking my kids. Her making a statement. So that's
Right, and this is all part of one sequence, right?
Yes, sir.
There's no break in between, is there?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Kuhn, if you're hearing hitting noises on the phone, would you agree that somebody hitting another person sounds exactly the same as somebody hitting themselves?
Oh, probably.
Okay. So on the phone, it can be very hard to tell what's going on, can it?
Sure.
And if you hear hitting noises and somebody's claiming, ow, that hurts, you can't see what's going on, can you?
No, sir.
Did your sister during this phone call, did she ever talk about being suicidal?
No, sir. Not during that phone call.
So she made no talk of committing suicide or anything like that, did she? At any point?
No, sir.
Okay. And what does your sister call you? Do you have a nickname or anything?
Oh, Bubba.
Okay. And is your phone number 5709?
Senator, we'll object at this time.
Y'all approach.
You know, my first witness.
You may.
Mr. Kuhn, I'm going to show you an item in a call log. I don't want you to announce the number, but I just want you to verify if you recognize this phone number for me.
Okay, sir.
Under the contact, Bobber, I don't know if you can see that from where you are.
Can I stand up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On a small right. That phone number.
That's my number, sir.
That's your number. Thanks, sir. Those are my questions.
All right, redirect.
Yes, sir. Sir, in your deposition, just a few lines up from this right after business, you said, she had said, he just threw me to the floor. He's not taking my kids, and gunshots.
Yes,
So
sir.
the connector word there was and, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the few lines down, as we just learned, the connector is, and then right after that, you heard gunshots. Was the question from the prosecutor. So the right after isn't, that's not your words. I mean, I can show you if you.
I
don't
see it,
have-
sir.
Okay. So that's a question from, not this prosecutor, but a different prosecutor, and you say yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. To the extent all that matters. You're listening, I mean, you're not watching this.
No, sir.
You're listening and you're perceiving,
Yes, sir.
right? And the next thing you perceived were the gunshots.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the difference between the kidnapping and taking, and you were called down here to, or for the kids, correct?
Yes,
It
sir.
had to do with the kids.
That's all she ever cared about.
Right. And you're called down even though their father is here. The father's not working, but you're called to take care of the kids, right?
Yes, she was afraid he was going to take them.
And then, the day you're called down here, you go through your sister's calls and however long the final one was, and you hear these gunshots, your sister gets arrested. It's a few days later, these people show up unannounced.
You know, I'm object for leading at this
Fair
point.
I'll sustain.
I was wondering-
Let's hear the question.
A, were you in like the best state of mind at that point?
No, sir. Not at all.
And when the investigators were there, did they ask you specific question followed by question followed by question? Or was it a, just walk us, from me, just walk us through it?
I believe, you mean when they filmed it?
No, sir. When the investigators are there in Pennsylvania, was it more of just, hey, just kind of a narrative deal and they're in, they're out, versus a deposition, or even today, which is question and break down your answer and question. It was just kind of a walk us through it, right?
Both times, before they filmed and after they started filming.
We're talking about when the police were there, correct? You're not on Zoom, of course.
No. When the detective
Okay.
showed
All right.
up, they
Just make
came
sure
to
we're
my
talking about the
store.
same thing. Now, the idea about, were you asked anything specifically about your knowledge of the gun by these detectives? Did they get into the gun, do you remember?
I don't remember, sir, no.
Did you assume that these detectives knew that a gun was involved?
Yes, sir.
You didn't think that your sister shot him with a water pistol or?
You know, I'm going to object for leading again at this point.
Sustained.
Did you think the gun was all that important? I know that sounds strange in this kind of a case, but did you assume that the police knew about the gun?
I don't know how they couldn't have.
Now, earlier, just to clear up, you talked about that it was, you were asked, how long was it physical, and you said 5 minutes. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Is it your testimony that you perceived that it was physical for 5 minutes, or it was physical intermittent in the yelling and the sounds you're hearing, that you're perceiving physical going on? You understand my question?
Yes, and I don't know if it was my phrasing. Physical could be someone throwing something or something falling or breaking, so it wasn't just 5 minutes of unadulterated one human being hit. It was 5 minutes of items like bangs and pops and things like that, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Can this witness step down and be excused?
He wasn't under subpoena, but yes, sir, he can.
Okay. All right, sir, you may step down. You're now excused.
Thank you, sir. Do these stay here?
Mr. Alderman, do you need to get the?
Yes, I'll go.
Okay.
Well, in response to him being excused, Judge, it is important, so that because he can stay in the courtroom then.
Is any objection to that, Mr. Alderman?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, y'all approached while we were out. And again, as I stated before the bench, I'd reviewed some case law even before the trial started, believing these issues may arise. So right now in the state of Florida, we have a split among the District Court of Appeals on whether or not PTSD testimony is admissible to establish self-defense. In the Mizell case, which is the first DCA, the first DCA said it could be admissible. We have the Okendo case, which is from the second DCA, says it's not admissible. There was another DCA maybe 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember if it was the fourth or the sixth DCA, agreed with Okendo. And I don't know if that opinion is technically final. I saw that, so I think this has been within the last 2 weeks. But here is what I also take out of the Mizell case in the first DCA, is that what happened in that case is the state wanted to preclude PTSD testimony. And what the trial judge did in that case is said, no, as long as these parameters are met, it could be admissible. The state appealed, and what the DCA said was that it could be admissible, and the DCA had no issues with the parameters that the trial judge gave. One of the parameters was that the trial judge said, in order to present PTSD, the defendant had to testify, because it's got to be the defendant that lays that predicate. Otherwise, you could have an expert witness be a conduit to inadmissible hearsay.
I don't know if you're inviting argument right now or you're giving me an advisory, which I absolutely appreciate. I would say this, though, either way, Dr. Harper would come in tomorrow and I would proffer, in all likelihood, if you would allow that. Now, I'm grateful for your,
What I'm saying is if, based on Okendo, I don't think the PTSD comes in, okay? Now, I understand the first DCA said otherwise. I think I personally agree with Okendo and the rationale. But even if it could come in under the first DCA case, it appears that a defendant has to testify before an expert can come in and render such opinions.
I understand that logic with regard to hearsay. However, if the doctor bases that opinion on, for instance, the video interrogation. This lady obviously has PTSD, and let me tell you why. It's far-fetched, I'll grant. But if she gives an opinion without using hearsay, then
Well, then we run into the issue of what is the state going to be able to do for rebuttal? I mean, can the state's experts render such an opinion to say perhaps she's not? She's not suffering from PTSD. And then we have the issue of, with battered spouse syndrome, notice has to be given, right?
Yes, sir.
yes, which was, as you know.
Yeah, no, and it was in this case. But there's been no notice of PTSD in this case.
I can comment on that if
Sure.
so. One of the issues I had, and we kind of went back and forth several times, was that I never got anything in writing from Dr. Harper in terms of a report of her, findings, what she looked at, conclusions. And so, we did a deposition, which I think it was 2 days. I tried to cover as much possible ground. And at the end, I asked her conclusions, and I'm looking through the deposition again, and in her conclusions, she never told me that she had diagnosed it with PTSD, because obviously I didn't specifically ask that because we were there for battered spouse syndrome. So I don't know if that's something Dr. Harper would then get on the stand and testify, but that has never come up before, and that, like I said, that was never a part of the, I don't know if it was a 6 or 7 hour deposition total. The state has, as I sit here now, 3 days into the trial, I have no knowledge that she's been diagnosed with PTSD.
And
I don't know if I'm going to call her, but there's a likelihood that I'm not anyway. I think we're going to do the same things here in a minute, and come in tomorrow and game on. I'll let you know if I'm planning to call her. To the extent you care, I can let you know. But
well, because it also means if she were to testify, she would be getting into statements that the defendant made to her without the state being able to cross-examine. I mean, basically she's going to be testifying to what would be otherwise inadmissible hearsay in some respects. Now, some of the stuff we've already seen and it's already come into evidence. But that's also a concern that, again, it becomes a backdoor way to get into evidence from the defendant without the ability to cross-examine, because the state's not going to be able to cross-examine the truth of what Ms. Kuhn told the expert. So
are you ruling?
I'm ruling right now, unless you come in tomorrow with some really, really good solid case law. I'm saying that if she doesn't testify, I don't believe I can have the expert opinion, any expert opinion, an expert testimony come in.
I appreciate the advisory ruling, because I think it could be important for my client's decision. However, I haven't even called her or asked her anything at this stage, so I'm not being disrespectful to you. But I appreciate
I'm just trying to interpret the case law.
I get it. I appreciate it. Yeah. So let's do our thing. And
Okay.
You said what you said, and I know where I am and what I have to do.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Kuhn, I previously placed you under oath. You're still under oath, okay? All right. And I just want to have a clear record of everything. First of all, do you understand that the decision to testify or not to testify is your decision? It's not a decision your attorneys make for you. It is your decision. Do you understand that? Okay. Do you understand that if you want to, you can go on the witness stand and testify and answer questions from your attorneys and then be cross-examined by the state? Do you understand that? Do you also understand you have the right not to testify, and that I would give the jury the instruction that's required if a defendant does not testify? Do you understand that? Do you understand if you did testify, there's an instruction that says the defendant in this case has become a witness, you should apply the same rules to consideration of her testimony that you apply to the testimony of the other witnesses. So what I'm saying is there's an instruction I have to give the jury if you do testify. There's an instruction I have to give to the jury if you do not testify. Do you understand that? Have you had sufficient time to talk to your attorneys about this decision? Have your attorneys explained to you the pros and cons about not testifying?
Yes.
Have they explained to you the pros and cons about testifying?
Yes.
Have they now answered all your questions about this decision?
Yes, sir.
Is anybody forcing you not to testify?
No.
Anybody made any threats to you to get to you not to testify?
No.
I'm sorry. Some of these questions seem strange, but they're questions I have to go through.
Yes, sir.
Is it your decision not to testify in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Has anybody promised you a certain outcome if you did or did not testify?
No.
And you understand this is your decision not to testify,
Yes, sir.
and that's what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions from Mr. Barnes or Mr. Etheridge on this that I've not covered?
None, Your Honor.
How about me?
All right. I'm going to find her decision not to testify has been done freely, voluntarily, and she understands that decision. And so she will not be taking the stand. So that leaves us where we go from today. And I think as we previously discussed, all the attorneys believe now would be an appropriate time to recess for the day. Mr. Alderman? Or,
Yes, I mean, my only concern is, depending on how the defense proceeds with the court's rulings, is, the time frame. So, because and as planned, I knew both doctors were going to take a long time, which is why we had the schedule that we do. So that would be my concern, if we were to pick up Dr. Harper in the morning. I don't know where that leaves us in terms of time frame.
Can I have it a moment?
you may.
Okay. I mean, I would rather that, and then I would pick up the rebuttal in the morning, and then we can do probably closings or.
Let me just tell you. Judge, I think what we'd like to do is rest in front of the jury today
Okay,
and come back tomorrow at that point.
all right,
We do rebuttal and obviously closing.
okay. Okay,
I think, yeah.
that's what you want to do today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Alderman asked me, and I think it's a fair question. I didn't want to rest for obvious reasons, but I don't think Dr. Harper would testify anyway, and
Okay,
as an officer of the court,
And so, for the court's information in terms of rebuttal, it would probably be 3 witnesses, because there is obviously, as we talked about, an argument for self-defense. So
right, and I need to make that part of the record. The state has agreed that based on the evidence that has been presented thus far in the trial, that she would be entitled to the self-defense instruction. Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Alderman?
correct, sir, yes.
Okay, that she would be, as a matter of law, entitled to that self-defense instruction.
Yes, and based on, there was a defense witness with allegations of self-defense, so on rebuttal, the state would get into statements by the victim. So at this point, it would probably be 3 witnesses, Mr. Joyner, Deputy Quick, and Deputy Rowell, or Detective Rowell. I think all 3 would be fairly quick.
Okay, and so we would plan to do closings then tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Okay, and, all right, let's go ahead and bring the jury in. You'll rest. Then I'll send the jury home for the day, and we'll talk briefly about some other matters after the jury leaves.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right,
And you're going to want to have them to come in at 8:30, or what would be the plan for tomorrow?
8:30.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding is we are not planning to close the courthouse in Santa Rosa tomorrow. Right now, as we speak right now, the plan is for the courthouse to remain open, given the current track of the hurricane. I
Is
understand
the-
Walton is closing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I think Okaloosa.
My understanding is they're closing at noon.
Yes, sir.
Is it supposed to be worse later in the day or early in the day, do you know?
10 o'clock is landfall.
10 o'clock in the morning of tomorrow night? Okay. So the only thing I've heard about Santa Rosa County is apparently the school district is canceling after-school activities in the evening. But, I mean, right now, the track seems to be going on a more easterly path so that it would not affect us. But as we know historically, that can change, and if it does, then y'all may be getting phone calls or something like that to,
Yes, sir.
or just watch the local news or something like that. But right now, we are not planning on closing the courthouse in Santa Rosa, and they're not planning on closing it in Escambia, as far as I know. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's bring the jury in.
Please rise for the jury.
Okay, everybody can have a seat. All right, members of the jury, I apologize for a little bit longer delay than we were expecting. Mr. Barnes?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
All right, members of the jury, the defense has rested. Here's what's going to happen is we are now done for today. Y'all will come back tomorrow, and we will resume the trial. And what I'm going to ask you to do, again, is not discuss the case among yourselves. Please do not go on the internet, any social media websites, anything like that to do any research about this case or do any investigation about the case. Please do not discuss the case again with anyone, including your closest friends or family members. And do not look at any kind of local media or anything like that. And again, this case should be decided on everything that occurs in the courtroom. So please heed to those instructions. And with that, I'm going to ask you to be back here at 8:30, and we will see you then. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Okay, everybody can have a seat. What I did want to discuss was the jury instructions.
Say, since we have some extra time, we could handle that issue now.
Are y'all prepared to look at how we want to word the self-defense instruction, or at least get a working draft of it?
And I took out things that were obviously not applicable, such as force towards law enforcement, things like that. But most of the rest of it I left in an abundance of caution. So there's probably quite a bit that can be taken out.
Okay. And I take it the defense is wanting all the lesser included second degree of manslaughter.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Judge, I think we talked
And
about.
I can put it on your computer, if it's still up, I can put it up on the big screen so everybody can see it.
Sure, as long as nobody's going to judge me for my typing skills. So.
Okay.
We talked about the other day.
It looks like, well, I guess you're not connected now.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Mitch asked me, and I said I wasn't presenting anything.
Okay, so, all right, well, then we'll just do it the old-fashioned way.
I did send a copy to Tressie,
Oh, you did? Okay.
or I thought I did. I'm pretty sure Friday I sent a copy to Tressie of jury instructions and voted for him.
Okay. Oh, Mitch is here.
Do you want to?
Can you hook that back up real quick?
Work your magic. I think I'm. No. I can connect to 2B. Am I connected there? It says no internet.
Disconnect it one more time. I did it this morning, I did it one more time.
And then if we need to make any other changes, then, because I know your internet's not good here, so if we need to make changes, I'll be able to do it upstairs
Okay.
in my chambers.
Yes, sir. Jim, do you want me to email those directly to you?
Yes, sir, that'd be great.
Okay. Randy, do you want those to Amanda, or do you have your own email? I'm sorry.
And email me the.
Yeah.
All right, any objections to these instructions? Okay. All right, any objections to these instructions?
None. No.
Okay, and I guess, Mr. Alderman, if you will, I guess you got to go fix the
Yeah, I'll try
the
to fix
lines.
the spacing issues, and then
And go ahead and email that to Tressie,
Okay.
and email me the verdict form again.
Yes, sir.
And then if we need to make any other changes, then, because I know your internet's not good here, so if we need to make changes, I'll be able to do it upstairs
Okay.
in my chambers.
Yes, sir. Jim, do you want me to email those directly to you?
Yes, sir, that'd be great.
Okay. Randy, do you want those to Amanda, or do you have your own email? I'm sorry. Okay.
All right. And it was, I know, Mr. Esters, I got a message. You've got to be in court, but that's Friday. It's not tomorrow, right? Okay. It would be, it's here, right, in front of somebody?
Here anyway.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, anything else that we need to put on the record?
Not that I can think of, Judge.
Sorry, inasmuch as we've rested, in the event that the state doesn't call rebuttal witnesses, we would renew our motion for judgment of acquittal. Same argument.
Okay. Mr. Alderman, any response to that?
No further argument, no, Judge.
Okay. So at this time, I'll deny the motion. I believe there's sufficient facts to support the first-degree premeditated murder charge to go to the jury. And what time do y'all want to be here? Do y'all want to be here at 8:30? I told the jury 8:30, so.
Yes, sir, that'd be fine with me.
Okay.
That's fine. Like I said, I don't anticipate.
I don't know about Mr. Barnes, he probably like 1 o'clock or.
I mean, it kind of depends. It's because I wouldn't anticipate those three witnesses to take long. So if we start at 8:30, I would anticipate we could probably go into closings. Maybe start closings 10 o'clock.
3.
And
Yeah,
then
I think that's fair.
I don't think closings would take it. I think they would be shorter now. Obviously, there's a lot less ground to cover than anticipated. So I would anticipate hopefully do closings and then give them the case and they go to lunch.
Yeah,
That'd be my
it
expectation.
will probably fall within their lunch break.
Yes, sir.
Like a plan.
All right, anything else we need to put on the record before we adjourn for the day?
Nothing to state, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, you know, good evening.